Deep inside the great jungle, beneath a canopy so thick even the sun must negotiate its entrance, a quiet tension pulses through the leaves. The air is still, too still. The trees seem to hold their breath. And then, a tremor. A distant groan of thunder rolls across the treetops as if the sky itself is warning the world below. The monkeys of the canopy pause in unison. Their ears perk. Their eyes widen. They stare upward, watching the ancient vines that wrap around the oldest banana trees begin to tighten. Slowly, silently, with a force that feels unnatural. Some vines creak under the pressure. Others snap in sharp, hushed pops lost beneath the thunder. Something in the jungle is shifting. Something powerful, something invisible. And then the voice settles in. Every fortune in this jungle swings on vines no one sees. Vines of debt. The canopy shudders as a gust of wind sweeps through the branches. Leaves spiral downward like warning signals. Somewhere far above, a vine recoils violently, sending a wave of ripples through the interconnected forest. What the monkeys do not yet understand is that this invisible tension, this tightening of unseen vines, has already begun reshaping their world. Debt, the jungle's silent architect. Some vines support, some vines strangle, and some vines, if woven with precision, can lift an ordinary monkey to heights unimaginable. For as long as the jungle has existed, the vines of debt have determined who rises and who falls. Yet most monkeys swing through life unaware of the forces holding their branches together. But that is about to change. As the thunder fades, the narrator continues, "Let me show you how the invisible vines move the branches behind every fortune. Let me show you how hidden debts shape the destiny of the entire jungle." The scene widens. You begin to see the full ecosystem. Towering banana trees, streams of golden fruit, tribes of monkeys working tirelessly. It looks harmonious, but looks deceive. For beneath the surface lies a network, an intricate web of vines connecting everything. Food, shelter, power, opportunity. A system so delicate that a single snapped vine can collapse entire clusters of trees. And this system, like every economy the jungle has ever known, is built on bananas. Bananas are everything. They are food, trade, savings, tax, and power. Every monkey understands bananas. But what they do not understand, at least not yet, is the hidden network of vines that lets those bananas move around the jungle. Debt. Debt is the promise of future bananas. Debt is the permission to eat today what you hope to collect tomorrow. Debt is the vine that allows a young monkey to build a home, or a tribe to grow its territory, or a banana farmer to expand his orchard. Every vine is a promise. Every promise is a risk. And every risk, if stretched too far, can reshape the jungle forever. Debt supports the branches in until it strangles them. High on the tallest tree sits King Silverback, the mighty ruler of policy, whose roars can change the direction of the entire jungle overnight. His decisions sway markets, savings, trade, and of course, the vines of debt. His wisdom keeps the system stable. His mistakes shake the canopy. Down below in the bustling heart of the jungle, the banana bank monkeys work tirelessly. They control the flow of bananas. They lend bananas, borrow bananas, store bananas, insure bananas. They do not grow bananas, they simply control the movement of them. And in doing so, they control much of the jungle's fate. But behind these bankers lurk the vine weavers. Elusive, brilliant, unregulated. They operate in shadows where few monkeys dare to swing. They do not merely use vines, they create new ones. Strange, complex, powerful vines engineered to hold more weight than nature ever intended. These vine products, bundled vines, future vines, assured vines, spread throughout the canopy like wildfire. They promise safety, strength, and endless growth. But hidden inside their braids are thorns, sharp enough to wound the entire jungle. And then, there is the smart orangutan, quiet, observant, calculating. He says little but sees everything. While others chase bananas, he studies vines. While others celebrate booms, He watches for cracks. When the canopy dances with excitement, he listens for silence, for he knows one truth. Fortunes favor those who see the vines before they snap. The jungle thrives. Bananas are plentiful, vines are strong. Monkeys swing with confidence, building new homes, expanding farms, trading faster than ever before. King Silverback thunders with pride. The banana bank monkeys cheer with overflowing vaults, and in the shadows the vine weavers smile as their creations spread across the jungle. But beneath this frenzy of growth, something subtle begins to shift. A vine pulled slightly too tight, a promise stretched a little too far. A risk layered beneath another risk. The jungle, drunk on abundance, does not notice. Every boom plants the seeds of its own collapse, and the vines are tightening. The jungle believes it is racing toward prosperity, but in truth, it is racing toward the greatest vine snap in history. Growth swept through the jungle like a warm, intoxicating breeze. Banana harvests soared. Trees grew taller. Monkeys felt richer. Every branch of the canopy buzzed with excitement. And deep within that excitement, the vine weavers found their opportunity. They began crafting new vine products unlike anything the jungle had ever seen. At first, they created bundle vines, thick ropes woven from dozens of smaller vines. Each small vine represented a single monkey's promise to pay bananas in the future. Alone, each promise was fragile. But woven together, the vine weavers claimed the bundle was unbreakable. Stronger than nature, they boasted. The jungle believed them. Then came future vines. Vines sold before they even existed. A monkey could buy tomorrow's vines today, betting on the future banana harvests. If those harvests grew, the vines became valuable. If they didn't, well, few monkeys bothered asking about that part. And then, in their greatest act of creativity and hubris, the vine weavers introduced assured vines. These vines were something entirely new, a guarantee, a promise that even if other vines snapped, these ones would hold. They were marketed as safe, reliable, unbreakable. Trust the weave, the vine weavers whispered. And the jungle did. Monkey tribes rushed to buy vines of every kind. Farmers used vines to expand their plantations. Merchants used vines to build new trade routes. Builders used vines to raise entire neighborhoods of tree huts. Even young monkeys took out vines to fund dreams of tomorrow's fruit. Banana bank monkeys cheered. Their vine lending soared. King Silverback celebrated. Growth looked strong, the canopy looked prosperous, and every monkey praised his leadership. But the smart orangutan sat alone on a distant branch, watching the frenzy unfold with quiet unease. He didn't trust vines he couldn't see through. He didn't trust promises woven too tightly, and he didn't trust the confidence that spread across the jungle like a fever. "Complex vines," he whispered, "hide sharp thorns." Still, the party roared on. The vine weavers discovered something extraordinary. As long as vines kept growing, monkeys felt richer. And when monkeys felt richer, they borrowed more vines. And when they borrowed more vines, the vine weavers could create even more. It became a loop, a perpetual motion machine powered entirely by confidence. Banana trees multiplied. New trading paths opened. Even the smallest monkeys could buy vines and join the great climb upward. Wealth seemed limitless. Growth felt unstoppable. The jungle believed it was experiencing the greatest era of prosperity in its history, and all of it was supported by vines. Every vine was a promise. Every promise was a risk. Every risk, when multiplied, could bring down the canopy. But few monkeys saw that. They only saw bananas piling higher and higher. The narrator speaks lower, slower. The jungle mistook leverage for strength and growth for safety. And so, vines stretched. They tightened. They multiplied in secret corridors of the canopy where sunlight rarely reached. The vine weavers ventured deeper into complexity, creating vine structures so elaborate even they no longer understood the full consequences. Vines inside vines, promises backed by promises, a web of interconnections so dense that nothing could fail alone. All the while, the smart orangutan felt an unease in his chest. "Vines this tight," he murmured, "don't bend. They snap." Yet the celebration continued. King Silverback reported record banana abundance. The banana bank monkeys reported record lending profits. The monkeys on the ground saw new huts, new tree paths, new opportunities. And the vine weavers? They quietly expanded their influence, spreading their vine products throughout the jungle, even to treetops that had never borrowed before. Almost every monkey, knowingly or not, now relied on the vine network. It felt like magic. It was not magic. It was pressure. Pressure hidden behind prosperity. Pressure ignored in the rush to grow. Pressure that would soon reveal itself in the only way pressure can. The jungle believed its vines could stretch forever. But nature had other plans. Far away in a grove where banana trees were once the pride of the jungle, something subtle happened. Banana prices stopped rising. Just a pause, a gentle leveling. But in a system built on the assumption of eternal growth, a pause is not gentle. A pause is a warning. The monkeys did not notice, but the vines did. Deep inside their braids, tension began to shift. Calculations changed. Risk grew heavier. The vine weavers felt a flicker of uncertainty, but kept silent. The banana bank monkeys sensed a tremor, but chose optimism. Only the smart orangutan understood the meaning. "Growth slowing," he whispered. "Promises tightening. The vines are beginning to rot." And indeed, rot had begun. Not everywhere. Not all at once. But in enough places to matter. Sick-tail monkeys, the ones who had borrowed the most vines with the fewest bananas, stopped paying. Their vines frayed. Their promises broke. Their failures echoed through the bundles. And because the bundles were woven into bigger bundles, the rot spread, quietly, invisibly, until it was too late. The first vine snaps, the narrator says, are never heard by the monkey swinging above. But the jungle was about to hear them soon, very soon. The rot spread faster than even the wisest monkeys expected. At first, it was the sick-tail monkeys, those who had borrowed too many vines too quickly, believing the good times would last forever. Their vines began to sag under the weight of missed payments. A few small threads snapped quietly in the night. No alarms, no warnings, just silence, as tension quietly shifted through the canopy. But vines are connected in ways the jungle had forgotten. A broken promise here tightened another vine there, and that tightening strained a dozen more. This was the danger the smart orangutan had feared, not the snap of one vine, but the chain reaction. Deep in the shadowy chambers of the vine weavers, the air grew tense. Their bundles, those thick, braided ropes made from thousands of promises, shivered with instability. The weavers inspected their creations, their confident smiles fading as they discovered something terrifying. Rot had reached the inner threads. Those inner threads were the ones they had always claimed were the strongest, the safest, the ones guaranteed never to break. But rot does not ask permission. It spreads. One morning, a weaver touched a vine bundle and felt a tiny vibration, like the heartbeat of a frightened creature. A warning pulse from the vine itself. Something was failing. And when the first major vine snapped, the sound echoed like thunder. It happened in the eastern canopy. A large vine fund, once considered one of the safest, suddenly announced it could no longer meet its promises. Too many underlying vines inside it had rotted. The entire structure collapsed. Monkey tribes gasped. The banana bank monkeys froze. The vine weavers hid behind leaves, avoiding eye contact. Then, only days later, another vine fund collapsed. Two major vine funds failing back to back was something the jungle had never seen. Panic began to ripple. Monkeys stopped swinging so confidently. The canopy grew quieter. A nervous tremble spread through the branches. But the worst was still waiting. Because the moment panic enters a vine-based system, trust evaporates. And when trust evaporates, no one wants to share vines. Monkey bankers clutched their vine reserves tightly. They stopped lending to neighboring tribes. They stopped lending to one another. They pulled their vines close to their chests like frightened animals protecting their young. Interbank lending froze overnight. The narrator tightens the voice. In a jungle built on vines, when monkeys stop sharing vines, everything suffocates. Liquidity vanished. And without liquidity, the canopy began to choke. Banana merchants couldn't trade. Builders couldn't finish new huts. Farmers couldn't buy tools. Even the monkeys with good vines suffered because no one trusted anyone else. Fear spread faster than disease. The smart orangutan perched silently on his high branch, watching the shift. The panic didn't surprise him. It rarely does. But its speed, its violence, even he felt a chill. He whispered a truth only smart capital understands. Liquidity is oxygen. When trust dies, the jungle chokes. And the jungle was gasping. Branches shook. Leaves fell prematurely. Vines vibrated with nervous energy. The stage was set for the collapse that would change the jungle forever. Far below the canopy, deep in the territory of the ambitious monkey giants, a powerful tribe watched the chaos with growing fear. This tribe had borrowed more vines than any other. They had expanded aggressively, building enormous banana depots, sky-high nests, and sprawling rope bridges. Their entire empire balanced on vines, and now those vines were trembling. They were too big to fall, and yet they were the first to fall. It began quietly, a missed payment here, a delayed pledge there. But inside their colossal vine network, tension accumulated rapidly. Vines were pulled from every direction. They tightened, they groaned, they strained. The monkeys in the giant tribe scrambled, trying desperately to reinforce the vines. They wrapped new vines around old ones. They begged for support from neighboring tribes. They pleaded with banana bank monkeys to lend just a few more strands, but no one trusted anyone. And then it happened. A thunderous crack echoed through the canopy. A vine thicker than a tree trunk, one of the main support vines of the giant tribe's empire, snapped clean in half. The shock wave tore through the web. Vines recoiled violently. Entire sections of their treetop city collapsed. Monkeys screamed. Platforms shattered. Bananas flew in every direction like golden sparks in the wind. The giant tribe, once a symbol of unstoppable economic might, was gone. The bankruptcy spread panic like fire. Banana markets crashed. Prices plummeted. Confidence dissolved into chaos. And worst of all, when their vines snapped, they pulled other tribes down with them. Branches that had stood strong for generations were ripped from the trees. Treetop homes fell. Entire parts of the canopy sagged in collapse. The jungle descended into pure chaos. In a world woven by vines, collapse is never contained. Monkey tribes scattered. The vine weavers hid in terror. Banana bank monkeys tried to cling to stability, but their vines were shaking violently. Even King Silverback felt powerless as he watched the canopy fall apart. Yet, in the midst of disaster, one creature remained calm, the smart orangutan. He observed the panic not with fear, but with clarity. He had seen the signs early, the slowing growth, the tightening promises, the false confidence. He had already moved to safer branches. He had stored bananas while others partied. He had kept his vines loose, flexible, unburdened. And now, he did what smart capital always does. He waited, not for collapse. Collapse was already here. He waited for opportunity, because while vines were snapping everywhere, new vines were forming. Vines belonging to desperate monkeys, vines worth pennies, vines others were too terrified to touch. But the smart orangutan touched them. He bought slowly, patiently, silently, while the jungle screamed. And as he gathered vines others were dumping in fear, he whispered the ancient truth. Fortunes are not built in calm seasons. They're built in storms. The jungle had entered the storm, and the orangutan was just beginning. But storms, no matter how devastating, always leave something behind. When the chaos began to settle, just slightly, just enough for monkeys to catch their breath, the jungle saw what had been exposed. weaker banana trees bending, entire tribes crushed beneath collapsed platforms, vines frayed, torn, or snapped clean through a canopy scarred by panic and fear. Yet among the devastation, a new energy pulsed through the treetops. It wasn't hope. Not yet. It was something quieter, more mathematical, more evolutionary. The jungle was beginning to adapt, and the first adaptation came from the ones who still believed in the vines, the vine weavers. For a long time, the weavers had been the shadows behind the system, operating in hidden chambers, pulling threads no one else saw. But once the crisis erupted, their quiet power became visible to the entire jungle. Their mistakes were exposed, their bundles were questioned, their credibility shattered, so they crawled out from the darkness with trembling hands and trembling tails, knowing they had to rebuild not just vines but trust. And so began the great reweaving. The weavers studied the collapse carefully, every snapped vine, every rotten inner thread, every point of tension that had gone ignored. They realized that the problem wasn't just the monkeys who borrowed or the banks who lent, but the complexity of the vines themselves. They had woven structures so tangled, so layered, so interconnected, that no one could see where the dangers were hiding. This time, they vowed to weave differently. Simpler vines, tighter rules, clearer knots. They created new diagrams carved into bark slabs, transparent vine maps showing which tribes were connected, which vines were shared, where the tension was rising. They even invented something new, stress vines, test ropes designed to simulate the weight of future pressure. For the first time, the jungle could see what might cause the next collapse before it happened. But while the vine weavers rebuilt the mechanics of the jungle, King Silverback faced a deeper challenge. The collapse had shaken the entire canopy. Monkeys had lost faith in the system. They blamed the banks, the weavers, the borrowers, the chiefs, everyone. The jungle's unity was broken. So King Silverback did what leaders do in times of supreme crisis. He rewrote the rules of the jungle. He swung to the highest branch, beat his chest with echoing authority, and announced the great stabilization. New borrowing rules, new lending limits, new vine inspections, new standards for how strong a vine must be before it connects to the canopy. Some monkeys protested, others celebrated, but all agreed. The jungle needed change. But the greatest change wasn't political, it was psychological. Monkeys who had once borrowed recklessly now hesitated before touching a single vine. Builders who raised platforms to the clouds now measured every branch 3 times over. Bank monkeys who once handed out bananas with smiles now inspected borrowers with suspicious eyes. The jungle had learned the most painful lesson any economy can learn. Trust breaks faster than it builds. And once broken, it never returns the same. Yet amid this slow rebuilding, while the banks repaired their platforms, the weavers retied their knots, and Silverback rewrote the rules. Something unexpected happened. A new force emerged. Not a tribe, not a bank, not a council, a mindset, the smart capital mindset. And its symbol was the one creature who had predicted the collapse before it happened, the smart orangutan. Because while the rest of the jungle panicked, he prepared. While vines snapped, he bought quietly. While monkeys fled, he climbed higher. While tribes argued over blame, he studied patterns. And in the months following the collapse, his patience was rewarded. For the first time, the jungle began to see him not as a loner, not as an eccentric, but as a prophet of the vines. His nest, built calmly during the storm, remained perfectly intact. His banana stores, collected while others mocked him, were overflowing. His vines, purchased when their prices were lowest, had begun to grow stronger than ever. Other monkeys approached him, humbled. "How did you know?" they asked. "How did you see it coming? How did you survive?" The orangutan smiled with sadness, not pride, because he knew most monkeys wouldn't accept the true answer. "I didn't predict the collapse. I predicted the behavior of the monkeys." He explained gently, "When times were good, the jungle forgot caution. When vines were easy, the jungle forgot tension. When bananas grew plentiful, the jungle forgot seasons." He paused, letting the truth sink in. It's never the vines that fail first. It's the discipline of those who hold them. For the first time, the jungle listened. They asked him to share what he had learned. And so, from his quiet branch, the orangutan taught three foundational principles that would shape the next era of the banana economy. Patience outlasts greed. Awareness outperforms speed. And stability is built long before storms arrive. And slowly, the jungle changed. Banks grew more cautious. Weavers grew more transparent. Borrowers grew more thoughtful. And the vines, once on the brink of total collapse, began to strengthen, one thread at a time. But even as the jungle recovered, even as new nests rose and banana trade returned, a new threat was forming beyond the horizon. Not a vine, not a chief, not a tribe. Something bigger, something global, because vines were no longer local. Vines were now woven across entire territories, across entire regions, across boundaries no monkey had ever climbed before. And soon, the jungle would learn that the greatest vines of all were the ones they never saw coming. The era of local vines was ending. The era of global debt was beginning. And the jungle was not ready. High above the jungle, where clouds kissed the tallest leaves, the smart orangutan perched silently, observing. The collapse had taught him much. The recovery had taught him more. And now he turned his gaze outward, beyond familiar groves, beyond the banana banks, beyond even the Silverback syndicate. The jungle was no longer a collection of isolated trees. It was a web, a network, a living organism of vines, branches, bananas, and debt. Every vine borrowed somewhere, every banana traded elsewhere, every promise dependent on countless others. The jungle's new reality was global, interconnected and fragile. The smart orangutan began mapping the flow. Sovereign banana debt. Kings like Silverback had borrowed enormous amounts of vines to fund peace, expansion, and ambitious projects. Their debts intertwined with every grove. Corporate banana debt. Banana bank monkeys, traders, and tribe enterprises borrowed heavily to expand their reach. Factories, transport, and trading posts were funded entirely on borrowed vines. Private monkey debt. Even the smallest troops borrowed for nests, bananas, or leisure. Each small failure could ripple across the canopy. The jungle had evolved. Isolation was impossible. Collapse in one corner meant tremors across every branch. Vines no longer just supported bananas, they carried entire economies. High above, beyond even the tallest banana trees, a new power ruled, the U.S. guerrilla clan. Massive, commanding, seemingly unmovable, they controlled the jungle's golden bananas. Oil. These were no ordinary bananas. They powered transport, trade, and the movement of every troop. Other clans depended on them, and the guerrillas knew it. Control the golden bananas, and you control the flow of every vine. Control the flow of every vine, and you control the movement of every fortune in the canopy. Through a complex exchange, 1. Guerrilla clan supplies oil bananas to smaller tribes. 2. Tribes repay with borrowed vines. 3. Vines circulate globally, connecting governments, corporations, and private troops. Every banana oil trade strengthened the guerrillas' leverage, creating dependence invisible to most monkeys. Debt, the smart orangutan notes, was not just numbers. It was influence. It moved silently. It shaped who thrived and who fell. Even as the jungle stabilized, unseen forces accumulated. Interest rate vines tightened across groves. Smaller banana trees bent under debt. Complex, over-leveraged vine products stretched from one territory to another. The next disaster would not roar. It would whisper. It would grow in silence among the branches and beneath the leaves. The jungle might appear calm, but tension pulsed in every hidden knot, every unseen connection. The smart orangutan scanned the canopy with measured patience, watching the flow of debt, observing stress in the smallest groves, noting where leverage could trigger cascading failures. And he knew the next collapse won't be sudden. It begins with small oversights, ignored signals, and invisible vines. Smart capital insights. 1. Hidden stress is the first warning. Minor tremors reveal the most dangerous pressures. 2. Leverage magnifies risk. The higher you climb, the harder the fall. 3. Observation before action is key. Panic destroys, awareness preserves. 4. Cycles never change. Optimism, overextension, complexity, strain, crisis, reinvention. The orangutan reminds quietly, monkeys who understand the web of vines can anticipate storms before entire groves are uprooted. High in the canopy, the smart orangutan sits, surveying the web of vines stretching across territories. Every vine represents debt. Every borrowed banana is a connection. Every assured vine is a thread tying monkeys together. Some vines lift monkeys higher. Some strangle them. Some appear strong but are frayed, ready to snap. Fortune does not favor the strongest, the loudest, or the fastest. It favors the monkeys who understand the vines before they bend. Every boom and bust follows the same rhythm. 1. Optimism stretches the vines. 2. Monkeys climb higher with borrowed strength. 3. Complexity grows. 4. Some vines snap, some bend, some hold. 5. Those who anticipate the strain survive. 6. Those who do not swing in panic or fall. And the jungle learns a timeless truth. Control the vines. Control destiny. Even kings and gorillas must navigate the same network. Debt flows as much through the smallest troop as it does through the mightiest clan. As the sun sets behind the tallest trees, the narrator's voice softens but remains compelling. Every fortune, every fall, every surge in the canopy is determined by the unseen vines. The jungle does not forgive ignorance. It rewards understanding, patience, and respect for hidden forces. Fortunes are not built in calm seasons. They are built in storms. Learn the vines. Follow the flow. Swing wisely. And if you've learned even a single lesson from this story, subscribe, follow, and keep your eyes on the canopy. Because in the jungle of finance, awareness is everything, and the vines never stop moving. High above the canopy, where the golden sun glinted off every leaf, the jungle breathed slowly, but tensely. The aftermath of the great vine snap had left scars. Branches hung twisted, vines lay frayed, banana groves struggled to recover. Yet life endured. Trade resumed cautiously. Bananas grew, slowly, as if learning humility, and in the shadows some monkeys watched. The smart orangutan moved with deliberate calm, eyes scanning every branch, every knot, every vine. The jungle whispered old truths to those willing to listen. Leverage is double-edged. It can lift you or snap beneath you. Complexity hides risk. Bundled vines are not strength. They can be fragility disguised. Liquidity is life. Without flowing vines, monkeys cannot move, trade, or survive. Observation beats action. Hasty swings lead to falls. Patient swings capture opportunity. Chaos is not punishment. It is a teacher. And every collapse carries lessons hidden in the frayed ropes, the broken branches, and the silent groves. King Silverback issued new decrees. Banana banks tightened their lending. Vine weavers faced restrictions. Fallen branches were cleared. Safety nets were woven around the weakest troops. Yet the jungle did not return to the way it was. New vines were more carefully grown. Borrowing required scrutiny. Transparency became more than a word. It became a survival tactic. Growth returned, but with caution. Prosperity returned, but tempered with vigilance. The jungle learned the hard way that speed without awareness is destruction. Amid the cautious recovery, one figure stood stronger than before: the smart orangutan. While others panicked or celebrated, he observed. While others overextended, he conserved. While others repeated mistakes, he acted with precision. His moves were subtle but decisive. He acquired stable, high-quality vines from distressed banks. He secured prime banana groves in growing territories. He positioned himself to benefit from future booms without risking collapse. Smart capital is not about luck. It is about awareness. It is patience. It is understanding the unseen forces that move the jungle. The jungle was no longer local. It had become global. Sovereign banana debts tied together kings and councils. Corporate loans intertwined tribes and banks. Private borrowing linked millions of monkeys in invisible webs. A single misstep in one grove could ripple across continents. The jungle's strength is in its connections. Its weakness lies in the hidden strain of those same connections. Understanding the web of vines is not optional, it is survival. Even in stability, tension pulsed. Interest rate vines tightened. Weak trees bent under pressure. Complex vine products stretched across groves. Monkeys distracted by immediate gains ignored warning signs. The smart orangutan noted, "The next storm does not roar, it whispers. It begins in subtle cracks, ignored signals, and hidden leverage. Only those who watch, who anticipate, who understand, will survive the next swing." Smart capital insight. Observation before action. 1. Hidden stress precedes visible collapse. 2. Leverage magnifies both growth and vulnerability. 3. Observation and patience protect wealth. 4. The jungle cycles endlessly. Optimism, overextension, complexity, strain, crisis, reinvention. The smart orangutan knew monkeys who understand the vines can predict storms before they topple entire groves. Closing of Part 6-8. As the canopy settled into quiet reflection, the narrator's voice softens but carries weight. The jungle endures because some learn, some observe, some wait. The vines do not forgive ignorance. They do not reward impatience. They reward insight. They reward patience. They reward awareness. Watch the vines. Understand the debt. Swing wisely, and your branches will endure. The sun rose over the canopy, painting golden light across every leaf and vine. The jungle had survived collapse. But survival did not mean ignorance was safe. New vines were taller, more intricate, and more interconnected than ever. Monkeys moved carefully now. Trade was slower, deliberate. Borrowing was scrutinized, and everywhere the lessons of past boom and bust echoed. Prosperity is not permanent. Growth unchecked invites risk, but knowledge and patience transform vulnerability into opportunity. Far beyond local groves, some clans had grown influential. The U.S. guerrilla clan, controlling oil bananas, dominated movement and energy. Tribes across the jungle relied on their golden bananas to power trade, transport, and growth. Debt vines stretched from the guerrillas to every corner of the canopy. Control the vital resources, and you control the jungle. Not by strength alone, but through networks, leverage, and influence. The smart orangutan perched quietly, observing subtle shifts. Interest rate vines tightened slightly. Weaker branches bore heavier loads. Some monkeys whispered of new vine products. The seeds of the next boom and the next potential collapse were quietly sprouting. He knew the jungle never truly rested. The jungle moves in cycles. Optimism stretches the vines. Greed multiplies them. Complexity masks their fragility. And every collapse teaches the same lesson. Those who anticipate, survive. Those who don't, fall. Even amidst calm, the smart orangutan taught silently through his actions. Observe first, act second. The jungle whispers before it shouts. Identify hidden leverage. Not all vines are what they seem. Patience compounds strength. Hasty swings amplify risk. Measured swings secure opportunity. Trust selectively. Confidence is earned, not assumed. Fortune is not in the loudest swing, the biggest haul, or the most dazzling display. It is in awareness, discipline, and respect for the invisible forces guiding the jungle. The jungle had changed forever. Debt flowed through every branch and vine. Networks of promises connected every monkey, every grove, every banana harvest. Complexity had grown, but so had understanding. Prosperity returned, but now tempered with caution and insight. Every boom contains a seed of collapse. Every crisis holds lessons. Every branch, every vine, every banana is part of a greater web. To survive and thrive, you must see what others cannot, anticipate what others ignore, and swing wisely. The jungle rewards awareness. It punishes the inattentive. Learn the vines, respect the debt, understand the flow, and fortune will follow those who do. If you've followed the journey of the jungle, the vines, and the smart orangutan, then remember this lesson in your own world. Awareness and patience are your greatest assets. Subscribe to continue exploring the unseen forces that shape markets, economies, and opportunities. Watch the vines, learn the rules, swing wisely. The jungle and your financial journey reward those who prepare. As the sun set behind the tallest canopy, shadows lengthened across the groves. The jungle was alive, yet cautious. Branches swayed gently. Vines hummed with potential and tension. Monkeys paused mid-swing, watching, learning, adapting. Survival is not the same as prosperity. Growth without awareness is fragile. Fortune without insight is fleeting. Only those who understand the network, who anticipate the hidden forces, can turn lessons into lasting strength. High above, the smart orangutan surveyed the web of vines connecting every grove, every troop, every banana. He understood. Crises are inevitable. Booms are temporary. Debt, leverage, and complexity will always test the jungle. But he also knew observation reveals hidden stress. Patience allows opportunity to unfold. Strategic action rewards foresight. The jungle doesn't reward the reckless. It rewards the wise, the careful, those who see beyond the immediate swing and into the unseen branches. Every vine matters. Every connection counts. Every action reverberates through the canopy. Debt, leverage, and complexity are not enemies. They are tools. When understood, they empower. When ignored, they destroy. The smart orangutan didn't just survive the grapevine snap. He thrived because he respected the jungle's rules, understood the invisible forces, and acted with patience and insight. So watch the jungle, observe the vines, respect the hidden forces shaping every swing, every harvest, every fortune. Fortunes are not built in calm seasons. They are built in storms. Learn the vines, follow the flow, swing wisely. The jungle rewards understanding. It punishes ignorance. And only those who see clearly endure and thrive. With a warm, encouraging cadence. Subscribe now to continue following the journey through hidden forces, markets, and the lessons of smart capital. Every vine, every branch, every lesson is a guide for those who want to thrive. Watch the vines, learn the rules, act with insight, and swing wisely.